We interrupt this regularly scheduled programming to bring you continuing coverage on breaking news we had earlier this afternoon. Somerset County Sheriff's Department and the Maine State Police confirmed the 29-year-old suspect, John Williams, who's been on the loose for 4 days, now is in authorities' custody. Somerset County Sheriff Dale Lancaster says Williams was caught after crews were searching off of Route 139. Maine State Police now say there is no more threat to the public. Officers were seen shaking hands and hugging shortly after the news conference. This all started after Corporal Eugene Cole, a deputy with the Somerset County Sheriff's Department, was killed early Wednesday morning. His death launching a national response from dozens of agencies, including multiple Maine Sheriff's Departments, the Maine State Police, the Maine Warden Service, and the FBI. News Center Maine's Don Kerrigan was at the press conference and joins us now from the Somerset County Jail with more. Don?
Hi, Chris. You're right. We are outside the Somerset County Jail. Actually, it's in East Madison, just outside of Skowhegan. We expect this is where John Williams will be brought at some point this afternoon to be incarcerated and formally booked in on the murder charge for killing Corporal Eugene Cole. The news of the capture came a little after between 12:30, 12:45, right about then this afternoon. The word suddenly started to spread after another morning of searching. Then Sheriff Lancaster, Lieutenant Colonel Cody from the Maine State Police came out and confirmed it, said that they were very happy to announce that their crews had arrested Williams. This happened, as you just mentioned, Chris, in the heavily wooded area where most of this search has been focused the past 4 days, between Route 139 and the Martin Stream Road, a heavily wooded area, but a lot of homes bordering it on the various sides of the roads. So we got video this morning of a pretty intensive search effort heading into the woods off Route 139. A lot of police officers from various organizations heading into the woods, all heavily armed, really focusing on that area. Law enforcement had told us that's where they believed Williams would be found. And at some point then, we don't know yet how they encountered him. Whether we believe he was found inside a shed. We have not had that confirmed, but we have an unconfirmed report that he was found inside a shed. He was taken into custody by law enforcement officers. They would have transported him out of there by now. Sheriff Lancaster said, we asked him at that point if they wanted to take him to jail right away. He said they want to question him first, find out a lot more about not only where he's been, but any more details they can find out about this shooting. We presume that questioning is going on now. Police have a lot of questions, and of course we've had a lot of questions that they haven't been able to answer about what happened, how they were tracking him. We know they were using technology from helicopters and airplanes, some technology on the ground. Also hoping for tips from the public, even this morning, earlier today, asking members of the public who might have game cameras out in the woods to check those cameras to see if they had anything on the image. So, Chris, we are going to get another briefing at 5 o'clock this afternoon where we hope we will be given a lot more details about how this arrest was made, how they found Williams, and maybe a little bit more about how they tracked him, what made them so certain he was still in that area. But he is alive, he is in custody, and for people around here, a huge relief. This is Visitors Day afternoon at the Somerset County Jail. As we were walking into the jail, people here to visit came up and asked us, is it true that he's been caught? And everyone said, what a relief. So, Chris, that's the news from here.
And Don, the Maine Association of Police tweeting out just a few moments ago that John Williams had been apprehended using Corporal Cole's handcuffs. They said a huge thank you to all of the state, local, and federal law enforcement officers that worked tirelessly and diligently to bring this manhunt to an end. Don, you mentioned the helicopter, the air support. We know that over the past couple of days, the rain really complicating the police ability to use the fixed-wing aircraft and the helicopters. Today, a bright, sunny day. You know, did police talk at all about that impact the weather had on their ability to search?
Well, they didn't, and if you remember, of course, this morning it was not like that. Certainly where I live, it was thick of fog, as they say. There was fog over a lot of Maine. We don't know how early aircraft were going to be get up. We didn't see or hear a helicopter until about 11 o'clock this morning. So when one came over and circled the police command post where we were. So we don't know if they were able to be out earlier. We believe that that when they have had aircraft up, they've been using whatever technology is available, possibly infrared, other things, to see if they can tell where there is someone in the woods. But we don't know yet if that's what enabled them to find him, or if it was simply a lot of good, hard ground pounding by a lot of police officers.
We do know that there were about 200 law enforcement officers, again, talking about local, county, state, federal resources, even out-of-state resources. The New Hampshire State Police, we had seen their tactical team late yesterday afternoon searching, again, that area on Martin Stream Road, off of Martin Stream Road on Bear Mountain Road. And I guess they had told you earlier today, Don, during that press briefing, that there was about a 25 square mile area that they had been searching, or at least believed that Williams might be, and that at the time it was Lieutenant Dan Scott from the Warden Service who said that's quite a large area for them to cover. And then for them to finally make this this discovery today, this apprehension after days of searching in this very focused area, to call it a needle in a haystack, I'm not sure if that's appropriate, right. But I wanted to get your sense of that.
Well, I think that's true. I've not been in those woods, driven by them on one road. You were in that area a lot over the last 2 days, Chris, I believe. Mm-hmm. Pretty thick woods, houses bordering it on the various roads, of course, but pretty thick woods. Dan Scott from the Warden Service said that there were some camps in those woods. And, of course, homes bordering it, as we just said, people with sheds, things like that. But a pretty big area, 5 miles by 5 miles, that's 25 square miles. So that would be that pretty large area, kind of Norwich Walk, bordering Norwich Walk and Fairfield. And that's where they've been focusing this search all along. Something told them, we're going to be very curious to find out how they were sure that's where he was. It was the Martin Stream Road, you recall, where Corporal Cole's cruiser was abandoned early Wednesday morning after John Williams stole it. And then they believed at that time that he had left the cruiser, taken off somewhere on foot. So for whatever reason, he appeared to have stayed in that area. You remember that there's word from the friend who had picked Williams up after midnight on Wednesday and brought him to Norwich Walk, that Williams had a backpack and a couple of duffel bags with him. So obviously no way of knowing what his plans were for that. But whether he certainly survived for a few days in that area. We don't know if he was able to hole up in some camps or people's sheds or what happened with that. But they had a very focused search. They were on a couple of those roads surrounding that area this morning with a lot of police officers going into the woods, game wardens too. And so finally it led them to him.
The police had said earlier this week in a press briefing that they had been tracking his movements through his family. I believe when that question was asked today at the press briefing, they kind of backtracked a little bit and said, we don't know what led him to want to reach out to us. We don't know exactly where he is or if the family has been involved. Do they have any sense, Don, of
yeah, they kind of fudged that a bit, Chris, today.
Did they indicate if
no,
this was from a family tip?
No, we've got none of that information about what actually led to this capture. We have an unconfirmed report that he was found in a shed. I don't know if that's true, so with all they basically said was he was captured by a team of state, local, federal law enforcement people, but that's what the whole group is that's been searching for him. We don't know the circumstances under which he was found. We don't know if there was a specific tip. There was a press briefing at noon before the capture where they were talking about a lot of this and would not give any details about what made them so sure he was still in that wooded area. If Williams had had some communication with family or friends that led them to believe, did he have a cell phone on and they were able to triangulate that signal from towers to still locate him in that area? We don't know. Was he seen on somebody's game camera? We don't know that either. Was he seen on something from the air? We don't know. So they somehow had information that made them quite confident he was still in that area. That's abundantly clear. We don't know what it was, and even when we asked today about a comment that had been made 24 hours ago that no one had heard from Williams since 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning Wednesday, they would not be that precise today. So it sounds like someone knew something, and we're hoping to find out who that was and what they knew and how that might have contributed to his arrest.
And Don, police had said during the press briefing earlier today that they did have technology, not just in the air from the helicopters, but also on the ground. The officers were using technology of their own. They also had technology out in the areas where they were searching. We had spoken with a couple of police officers who were out there just off of Martin Stream Road, who had told us a little bit about the type of technology that they were using. They had also asked anybody during today's press briefing to please keep an eye on any of the game cameras that they may have in the area. And then the governor late yesterday afternoon issuing that emergency proclamation to suspend hunting in the area of Fairfield, Skowhegan, and Norridgewock to protect anybody, whether they encounter somebody they didn't know if they might be friend or foe. That was the term that they used earlier today during that press briefing. They wanted to make sure for everybody's safety that nobody else was in the woods, so that they could focus their search on finding one person, and that one person that they find would ultimately, that presumably would have been John Williams.
Yeah, that's right. Again, we haven't been given much in the way of details about the technology. If it's, if there's video, if there's listening devices they can plant to see if you hear anybody walking through the woods, anything that might be, again, a way to key into his cell phone if it was on. We know that law enforcement has used that in other cases. So, again, they said yesterday, I believe, police did, that they had been frustrated by the weather problems, all the rain the last couple of days, that they weren't able to be in the air more using the visuals and the technology. But we're going to assume that played some role. We don't know how much.
Don, we're seeing now on social media just the outpouring from the local law enforcement, the Maine Sheriff's Association saying deep gratitude for the outpouring of support to all. We have the Topsom Police saying congratulations to all who had a hand in effecting this arrest. R.I.P. Corporal Cole. We want to play you a little bit of sound from the press briefing earlier this morning from the Somerset County Sheriff's Department, as well as the Maine State Police and the Warden Service, talking about the type of effort going into this search. Take a listen.
That at 12:43, a team of state, federal, and local law enforcement officers made contact with John Williams in the woods off of Route 139 here in Norridgewock, and we have arrested him. He is in custody. We'll be providing more information at 5 o'clock. But I am extremely grateful for all those people that assisted the Somerset County Sheriff's Office in bringing Williams in. So thank you. More at 5.
Can you tell us where he's being taken at this point, taken to jail?
Right now, so we do have Mr. Williams in custody, and more investigation has to happen and occur. This is just the beginning. So,
and obviously, you can't tell us yet about kind of the circumstance.
But we cannot talk that. The purpose of this is to tell you that it has come to a conclusion. We have arrested John Williams.
Are you at least proud that it ended peacefully?
I'm extremely. It happened. It was resolved peacefully, without any more harm to our officers. So, thank you.
And you'll be back here at 5?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
That was the main goal of police from the get-go. They had said that from day one, that they wanted to end this peacefully. They wanted to resolve this without any further harm to either Williams or any of their officers. It's unclear right now many of the details, even before this capture. We still have questions about what led to the interaction between John Williams and Deputy Cole on Wednesday morning. We know that John Williams was scheduled to appear in court in Massachusetts later Wednesday morning. You can see in this video now the law enforcement officers shaking hands and hugging. This obviously a momentous day for all of these officers. You can see the joy on their faces. This was moments ago. This was about at noon, just a little after noon, probably around 12:30, 12:45. Officers congratulating each other on finally finding John Williams,
Hey,
the
Chris,
man who
Chris,
had been
this is Don. Can you hear me?
Yes, Don, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick thought on that. The reaction from police, obviously understandable after 3.5 days of intense work. But this was clearly a mission for them. One of their own, one of the brotherhood and sisterhood of law enforcement had been killed, and this was clearly a mission of theirs to bring the killer to justice. One reason there was such a huge outpouring of police officers of various kinds from a very large area in and out of Maine to help with the search, including people coming in on their own time to be involved in it. So they obviously a huge relief that they finally, that mission accomplished, as the saying goes, that they had gotten this guy, that he is alive. There's a lot of them who want to find out the answers to those questions you were just raising, I think, Chris.
Mm-hmm. We're still waiting to hear many of the answers to those questions. We're not sure now if they'll be addressed during that 5 p.m. briefing, but we know that there are many unanswered questions about what led to that interaction between Cole and Williams originally on Wednesday night. We knew that Williams was supposed to appear in a Massachusetts courtroom on gun and drug charges. A Massachusetts judge had lowered his bail down to $5,000. He was able to post bail. His girlfriend, Christina Pomerleau, arrested in Somerset County on Saturday night preceding this arrest, the interaction between Cole and Williams. We know that Deputy Cole was involved in that arrest, but not necessarily the arresting officer. We know that Deputy Cole's body was found at a home on Mercer Road, outside a home on Mercer Road, later on Wednesday morning. But we don't know how Deputy Cole's body got there, where he was shot. We do know that occurred sometime between 1 and 2 in the morning on Wednesday. But again, the big question is, what was that initial interaction? What was the moment that led them to finally meet? And we're hoping that some of those questions will be answered tonight at that 5 p.m. press conference. Don, I'm not sure if you're able to talk more about what they were telling you earlier today during that media update, but it seemed that it was almost moments after they had the original noon briefing. Police had told us earlier this morning they planned to have a noon briefing to update the public on what had happened, to let them know that at that point Williams was still at large, considered armed and dangerous. We had been following the search efforts by police on the ground and in the air as long as they had been going, and then finally, it was really just within an hour or less after they finished that initial press conference that they came back and said he'd been captured. Don, was there? It seemed. Was there? Okay. So it sounds like Don is done with his reporting for now. We'll hopefully catch up with him in a few minutes. But this has been a story that's really impacted a lot of people all over Somerset County. People bring donations of food, water to the Norridgewock Fire Department that was acting as the command post for the law enforcement officers from local, state, federal, county operations that were trying to apprehend Williams. And we know that a lot of people had been bringing those donations of food and water and supplies. We also know that local convenience stores had pieces of paper on the front doors offering anybody to basically allowing anybody to give donations, letting them know that law enforcement officers had been coming in and out. We heard from some of those clerks who said that people would come in, they'd buy something, and they would leave some extra cash and say, leave this for the next law enforcement officer who comes in. It had been just one of those situations that deeply affected the entire community. We're pulling up some more social media reports here. we are still trying to confirm a lot of the information that is out or that is unanswered right now, and we will bring you that information as soon as it becomes available. Please follow our social media pages, News Center Maine on Facebook as well as on Twitter, and our mobile app and website, newscentermaine.com, for any updates. And we will bring you the press conference at 5 p.m. from police live on Facebook as well as on our air as soon as we are able to do so. And then after that, make sure you're tuning in for News Center Maine at 6, where we will have all of the latest coverage on this manhunt update. But again, the 29-year-old suspect, John Williams, has been captured alive. He is in police custody, and police say that this is a great day to have finally ended this manhunt that went on for almost 4 days. It was entering its 4th day today. That 29-year-old suspect, John Williams, accused of shooting and killing a Somerset County sheriff's deputy. He has now been arrested, captured alive. He's in police custody. And again, we'll bring you all of the latest updates on our social media pages and our website and mobile app, as well as on air as soon as it becomes available. We'll now return you to your regularly scheduled programming.